In the heart of a tumultuous Roman Empire, a young noblewoman named Magnia Urbica prepared for her union. By marriage to Carinus' son, Carinus was a strategic alliance, a common thread in the tapestry of Roman politics. Carinus was known for his ambition, a trait that both thrilled and unnerved her. The year 283 AD dawned with immense change, as Carus and Carinus were proclaimed co-emperors. Suddenly, Magnia Urbica was not just a wife. She was an empress. The Senate bestowed upon her the title of Augusta, a great honor. She was also named Mater Castrorum, Senatus Aeci Patriae, Mother of the Camp, the Senate, and the Fatherland. These titles were more than mere words. They were a heavy mantle of responsibility. Life transformed into a whirlwind of courtly duties and public appearances. She navigated the treacherous currents of the imperial court with grace and intelligence. Carinus, now in Rome, indulged in a life of unparalleled luxury and excess. His festivals and games were the most spectacular the city had ever seen. Magnia Urbica, in contrast, maintained a dignified and reserved presence. She became a symbol of stability in a court that teetered on the edge of chaos. The birth of their son, Negrinian, brought a new dimension to her life. He was a potential heir, a continuation of their dynasty. But shadows were gathering on the eastern frontiers of the empire. Carinus' father, Emperor Carinus, died under mysterious circumstances during his Persian campaign. Rumors whispered of a lightning strike, but many suspected foul play. Carinus' brother, Numerian, also met a suspicious end on the journey back to Rome. The army in the east, disillusioned and angry, proclaimed a new leader, Diocletian Doctarn. The name Diocletian reached Rome like a death knell. Carinus, consumed by his pleasures, initially dismissed the threat. Magnia Urbica, however, felt a deep sense of foreboding. She understood the fragility of power and the ruthlessness of Roman politics. She urged her husband to take the challenge seriously, to rally his legions. As Diocletian marched west, Carinus was finally forced to act. He gathered his forces, confident in his military prowess. Magnia Urbica remained in Rome, her heart heavy with anxiety. She prayed to the gods for her husband's victory and safe return. The fate of the empire hung in the balance, to be decided on a battlefield in Moesia. The two armies clashed at the Battle of the Margus. Reports from the battle were initially positive for Carinus. His forces were strong, and they began to push Diocletian's army back. A glimmer of hope reached Magnia Urbica in the heart of Rome. But victory was snatched away by an act of betrayal. One of Carinus' own tribunes, a man whose wife the emperor had allegedly seduced, sought his revenge. In the midst of his apparent triumph, Emperor Carinus was assassinated. His army, leaderless and confused, faltered and was defeated. The news of his death arrived in Rome like a chilling winter wind. Magnia Urbica's world shattered in an instant. She was no longer an empress. She was the widow of a defeated and despised man. Diocletian, the victor, became the undisputed master of the Roman world. One of his first acts was to condemn the memory of his predecessor. This was the ultimate Roman punishment, damnatio memoriae. Carinus' name was to be erased from all public records and monuments. His statues were torn down, his achievements stricken from the annals of history. The tragedy was not just Carinus' alone. It extended to his entire family. Magnia Urbica, the Augusta, was now subject to this official oblivion. Her name was scraped from inscriptions alongside her husband's. Her face, immortalized in coinage, was no longer to be circulated. The historical record was being actively, brutally rewritten. Her very existence was being denied, her identity systematically dismantled. What became of the woman herself is a question lost to the silence of history. No records speak of her execution or exile. No tomb has ever been found. She and her young son, Negrinian, simply vanished from the narrative. It is presumed they died shortly after Carinus' fall, but there is no proof. This was the true tragedy of Magnia Urbica. It was not a single, dramatic event, but a slow, creeping erasure. She had been an empress, an Augusta, a mother to the fatherland. She had held a position of immense power and prestige. Her image had been a symbol of the empire's continuity. And then, in the blink of an eye, she was nothing. She was a footnote, a ghost in the margins of history. Her life, her experiences, her very identity were sacrificed for political expediency. Condemnation of her husband's memory became her own historical death sentence. For centuries, her name was known only to a few numismatists who found her coins. These small metal discs were the only proof that she had ever existed. They were whispers of a life deliberately silenced. Each coin a tiny rebellion against the damnatio memoria. Her story is a stark reminder of the power of historical narrative. History is written by the victors, and the losers are often forgotten. Magnia Urbica was on the losing side of a brutal civil war. Her legacy was the price of her husband's failure. The tragedy is not in how she died, but in how she was forced to disappear. She was a woman of substance, reduced to a historical whisper. Her hopes, fears, and ambitions are lost to us forever. We can only speculate about the person behind the imperial titles. Did she love her flamboyant and reckless husband? Did she fear the future that was hurtling towards them? Did she feel the weight of the crown she wore? The answers are buried under layers of deliberate oblivion. Her fate serves as a cautionary tale about the impermanence of power. In one moment, you are at the apex of the world. In the next, your very existence is a crime to be erased. The story of Magnia Urbica is the story of a voice that was silenced. It is a void in the historical record, a deliberate and chilling emptiness. A testament to the fact that history is not just about what is remembered, but also about what is forgotten. Her name was Magnia Urbica. She was an empress of Rome, and her erasure is her tragedy. The imperial court was a stage of constant performance. Every gesture and word was scrutinized for political meaning. Magnia Urbica learned to be a master of subtlety. Public persona was one of serene and untouchable authority. In private, she contended with a husband known for his volatile temper. The chronicles, written later by Diocletian's supporters, painted Carinus as a monster. They accused him of every imaginable vice and cruelty. How much of this was truth and how much was propaganda is impossible to know. Magnia Urbica lived at the center of this web of rumor and intrigue. Their son, Negrinian, was granted the title of Caesar. He was deified after his early death, a common practice. This honor, however, was also short-lived. His memory was suppressed along with his parents. The new regime sought to erase every trace of the previous dynasty. It was a thorough and systematic cleansing of the historical slate. Magnia Urbica might have tried to flee with her son. She might have sought refuge with a loyal family. or she might have accepted her fate with quiet resignation. The silence of the sources is both frustrating and poignant. It allows for endless speculation, but provides no comfort of certainty. Her tragedy is a powerful example of women's precarious position in Roman history. Their fates were almost entirely tied to their male relatives. An emperor's downfall was his empress's downfall. Her titles, honors, and public image were all stripped away. She was rendered a non-person by the stroke of a pen. The coins that survive are accidental survivors of this purge. Each one is a small miracle of historical survival. They allow us to look upon the face of a woman history tried to forget. In her portrait, we see a calm, dignified woman. There is no hint of the chaos of her husband's reign or the doom to come. It is an official image, a mask of imperial serenity. Yet, it is the most real thing we have left of her. The story compels us to look for the silenced voices in history, to question the official narratives and search for the forgotten. Magnia Urbica's tragedy is not just her own. It is the tragedy of all those whose stories have been lost to power, politics, and time. She represents a void, a question mark in the grand story of Rome. The court celebrated the Ludi Romani with unprecedented extravagance. Magnia Urbica would have presided over these games as empress. Her presence lent an air of legitimacy to her husband's lavish displays. Behind the scenes, the treasury was being drained to fund these spectacles. The threat from Diocletian was a threat to this entire world of excess. When Carinus marched to war, he left his wife and son in a city of shifting loyalties. She would have been the de facto regent in his absence. For a brief time, she held the fate of the capital in her hands. Her authority was entirely dependent on her husband's success on the battlefield. The Senate, ever opportunistic, would have immediately switched its allegiance to Diocletian. Magnia Urbica would have found herself utterly alone and powerless. Her guards would have deserted her. Her servants fled. Damnatio Memoria was a tool to legitimize the new emperor. By turning Carinus into a villain, Diocletian became a savior. Magnia Urbica was collateral damage in this political rebranding. Her memory was sacrificed on the altar of a new political order. The few inscriptions that survived with her name were likely in obscure locations, places that the agents of the Damnatio Memoriae missed. These accidental survivals are all that is left of her public life. Her private life is a complete and total mystery. The erasure was so complete that even later Christian historians, who delighted in the downfall of pagan emperors, barely mention her. She exists only in the gaps, in the spaces between the words. Remember her as an act of historical defiance. It is to insist that the silenced have a story worth telling. Magnia Urbica, Empress of Rome, erased but not entirely forgotten.